All right, so we are ready to get started. I'm Jen Williamstein. I work with the Santa Barbara Contractors Association, and we have some really great panelists with us today. I wanted to do introductions first for the first few minutes, and I wanted to thank Sandbox Santa Barbara for allowing us to use this gorgeous conference space. Sandbox Santa Barbara is a co-working shared office and event space for a community of entrepreneurs and creative professionals focusing on creating technology, lifestyle brands, and a lifestyle of their own that is uniquely California. You can either rent a desk or an office, become a co-working member, join the community, or rent a space for your event like this conference room here, which is the Longboard Conference Room at thesandboxsb.com. Link is down in the comments field with all of the details. And so now I'm going to introduce our panelists, and we're so excited to have these three gals with us today. They both have a depth and breadth of experience that is unparalleled in this particular topic. So Karen Feeney to my right handles marketing and business development for County Construction. She's experienced a large number of fires in the Santa Barbara and Rita area, most notably Painted Cave, T, and Hazasita fires. After the Painted Cave fire, she was then working for the Community Environmental Council, or the CEC, and she helped develop an assistant program called From Ashes to Opportunity that included both a resource book and neighborhood forums on how to rebuild sustainably after a fire. This effort was updated, and a similar program offered homeowners after the T and Hazasita fires. Following the T and Hazasita fires, Town Construction assisted many families who had lost their homes, including providing rebuilding estimates, negotiating settlements with insurance companies, providing technical assistance on how to rebuild fire safe, and ultimately building new homes for 25 fire victims. They also built a demonstration home for Santa Barbara Street Day back in 2009 that showcased fire-resistant and sustainable building practices. Over 20,000 people toured that home, which was built in only 1 week in Alameda Park. Pretty amazing, and I'm going to have photos from that tea house construction and when it was completed and how it was headed off to Coyote Road, and that will be down in the discussion feed, and you'll be seeing a lot of photos come through in the discussion feed, so be sure to take your Facebook Live feed off to the right, and then you can be seeing the photos as we're going through them as well.
A quick interjection. What you did say was that after Earth Day, we donated that home to a family who had lost their home on Coyote Road. So that was really exciting. Then we had to get it from
Alameda Park
up to Coyote Road. Yeah, that was fun.
So good stuff and lots of great information from a general contractor's perspective with Karen. And then Margie Grace is right next to her, and she is an accomplished landscape designer. And she has a passion for all things that add beauty, delight, comfort, sustainability, and style to your garden. With experience and training gardener from the 1990 Painted Cave fire, the Tea fire in 2008, and the Hazasita fire in 2009, Margie is well-versed in fire-resistant landscape strategies. She's the winner of the prestigious 2009 International Landscape Designer of the Year Award, which is the top honor in her field. And her firm has also won numerous other awards for landscape design, including numerous Builder of the Year awards from the SBCA. Her work has appeared in publications including the Wall Street Journal, the LA Times, Traditional Home, Better Homes and Gardens, Garden Design, Sunset, California Homes, Garden Ideas, and California Home and Design. Phew! And then right here on the furthest to my right is Gina Sanseri, and she's a fire inspector for the City of Santa Barbara's Fire Department. The City of Santa Barbara has operated continuously since 1881. Santa Barbara Fire Department provides response to all risk emergencies, to an average daily population of 123,000 people, 90,000 residents plus visitors within the 23 square mile city jurisdiction. And as we just witnessed with the Whittier fire, which is why we wanted to cover this topic, Santa Barbara's front country is one of the most complex wildland fire environments in the United States. The wildland-urban interface is the preeminent problem for the fire service in the U.S., and with our Wildfire Benefit Assessment District, we are emerging as a leader in creating a cooperative approach to living with wildfire. We are so fortunate that our local fire department offers a free, voluntary, defensible space evaluation program, and the link to that is in the discussion feed below. So if you want to go ahead and look for Gina's link down below, that will have that there. And that program is available to anyone who is in the Wildland Fire Assessment District. And as we start getting moving with our conversation, if there are any questions that arise for our viewers, please add your comments into the either the comments field in the live feed or in the discussion thread below, and then our experts will be answering questions at the conclusion of our panel. So keep in mind that while this is a live event, you can always tune in back in at any time to play or replay parts of discussion that you've missed or want to refresh in your memory. So We are now living in a year-round fire season in Santa Barbara, and whether you're a renter or an owner, I wanted to get some insights from our panel on what each of them believe are the top 3 things that we need to check to make sure that our homes and property are safe and secure. So I'm going to start down at the end with Gina, and then we move this direction. Great. Here.
If you ask our wildlife specialist, she would probably say the top 3 are defensible space, Thanks. I'll add a couple more. So for the defensible space, that's creating your outside landscape so that it's more defendable against fires. We have our defensible space requirements. They're on our website. Certain distances from the house that you can't allow certain types of vegetation. And you want to clean out all dead, no branches over the house, nothing that can transmit the fire moving faster towards your house. So I would say with the defensible space would also include things you have stored around your house, combustible materials, maybe even patio furniture, cushions burn great. Once they start burning, they fly embers around, umbrellas, piles of wood. Everybody's got a little pile of scrap wood around their homes, and the high fire home area. Don't have those anywhere near your house. One little ember in there can smolder, and then away it goes. The second one, I would say, is keep informed. Know when there's a red flag warning. Know when there's high winds. Don't do anything around your home that might create an ignition source, such as having a barbecue or anything where embers, the wind might pick up one ember and blow it somewhere. And no weed whacking with a metal plate that creates spark. So it was control ignition sources. No smoking, or no discarding your cigarettes. And the last one is be prepared to evacuate. Know your evacuation routes. Maybe you only have one main road out. And if that's so, you want to get out first. You don't goof around trying to defend your home. And have all your medications, your pets, carriers, everything's ready to go. So if you need to get out fast, you can get out fast. And know your other evacuation routes. Maybe you have to go a different way that you're not used to going to get down into the city and take a big way around. That might be the best way. So you should think about these things before the fire.
That sounds great. All right, Martin, how about you?
So number 1 is defensible space. So design it, build it, and maintain a fire smart landscape. The second one, I said go get to know. This is from following around out the fires, talking to clients as well as talking to just people on the street. So you get to know your local firefighters. No kidding. And have them get to know your property. They offer services, the courtesy property inspections for fire safe spaces. Take advantage of community programs, the chipping programs and whatnot. And then ask them how to report them, because sometimes yours can be a place, if you've got a swimming pool, where they come and park their truck and their pumper and whatnot. And then I have to say the number 1 thing that I saw for people, homes being safe, was the landscape in the house screams, this is a defensible space. It's a great place to make a stand for fire. And the firefighters will see good access, the defensible space, and if possible, a water source, because those things make a really big difference. When I did some counts on this right before I came, a swimming pool, a school, a large hot tub, you'll see the T-Fire property in a little while, and it has an 8 by 10 by 4.5 foot deep hot tub, and that's about 2,500 gallons, which is about 3.5 hours of garden hose at what most garden hoses do, and 30 to 45 minutes of fire hose, depending on both sides of things. And so those things really make a difference for quite a few clients of mine.
That sounds great. All right, Karen, how about you?
Well, I think one thing I just want to say is that a year-round fire season is what we have. The Painted Cave fire happened in July. The T fire was in November, and then the UCC was May 5th. So it is year-round. I think from a builder's perspective, looking at the weakest link of your home, those combustible elements or features of your home, they're going to burn in the fire. Things you should check for an existing home. These are things like your roof, your attic or crawl space vents. You already mentioned the piles of wood around the home, but as Gina said, winds in a fire creates its own winds, and burning embers can actually be forced or blown a mile or two ahead of the fire. And so what you want to do is look around your home and eliminate these weak links where these burning embers can get into your home. So that would be avoiding attic or crawl space vents, weather stripping your garage door, weather stripping your doors and windows. So that we had a homeowner up in the T-fire area where his house got burned all the way around. It did not burn, thank goodness, but you could see there was a place right up against the door in one of his homes or one of his buildings where there was a burning ember, and you could see that the wooden door sill was burned, but it couldn't get in the house, so that house didn't end up burning because of that. And then things like your deck, you want to have non-combustible decks and railings in your home. So cementitious boards, plaster, metal, stone, those kinds of things. You can put those, or skirt your deck, your wooden deck, and close it in so that you're not going to get embers in your house. Right?
That's fantastic. And what I really like about a lot of these tips is that they're not just relevant for homeowners, but for renters as well. As a renter in this area, you also need to be aware of these things that you can do, and some of them are inexpensive, and some of them are a little bit more pricey, but some of them are free. So be sure to take advantage of what we've got going on in this area to help protect yourself. And now I'm going to turn it over to Margie for a little bit. We've all heard that you need to create defensible space around our homes. We were just talking about that. But how do you do this and keep your landscape looking beautiful? Are there plants to consider? How about hardscape elements? And you know those from a materials perspective. And just so you're aware out there, we're going to be uploading photos that go along with this. So again, make sure you've got your live feed down in down on the side so that way you can be seeing these photos as they go up.
And then so that I can see the photos too, turn yours to towards me,
Gotcha.
and then make them as big as they go.
So we're going to start with the T-fire.
So there's a few things that we've talked about. There's incredibly great resources within the fire planning community and the fire defense community. And rule of thumb is your first 30 feet around the house is your lean, clean, green zone. And then you're reducing fuel for at least 100 feet if you've got that big of a lot out there. And what you're looking for is reducing the fuel load as well as the continuity of the fuel, both vertically and horizontally. So I'm going to focus on the part, I know you can get great info about fire safe, fire smart, fire resistant landscaping. I know you can get great info about how to make a plan. I know you can get great info online on a lot of stuff, but there really is the sticky part is just how to make it look good. So I'm going to focus on that. So we'll start with these pictures. The first one is the T-fire. This is about a quarter mile from where the T-fire started. And this is on Banana Road, which is a spur off of Coyote Road, also called Coyote Road. And there were 11 or 12 houses up this spur, and 4 of them were not burned. 3 of them were built by the same builder. So just take note of what he had on his list of checkboxes. And most notably for me, it was non-combustible materials in the house and that really tight shell that kept embers from coming into vents, kept embers from coming through chinks in the exterior. So here, this is what the property looked like. Keep clicking. Next. You've got steep terrain. Look, it's hard to beat a green lawn. But we've got other things at play called where's the water come from for this lawn. So we've got lawn substitutes that will come up, and I'll show you some of that. And then our next.
She's scary. A multitask.
So that was the before. This is the after. And what this is about is we've got a real nice gravel motor court in front of it. And what we've got up against the house is some substitutes that stand in decoratively and structurally for plants. We've got things that don't burn like pots. We've got high water content succulents. We've got very, very little fuel there, and it's not connected to its neighboring fuel in the least bit. Where we're standing is about 60 feet from the front door, and we're in this. We've got also high water plants there and non-wood herbaceous plants. So, you know, the more wood in the thing, the longer it's going to burn. Next. Here's some more gravel showing. Next. There's that 2,700 gallons of water. It's an oval 8 feet by 10 feet, and it's 4.5 feet deep, and the homeowner, short woman, was able to do one breaststroke across the lake. So she was quite happy with that. And next, you'll see very little really plant material inside these landscapes, yet they don't feel, you know, just completely starved. Pots are your friend, decorative elements on the house, you know, architecture is your friend. Next. And then, because here's the trees coming back, because it was a fast-moving fire, it was driven by both wind and by topography. It was able to pass through and not get into the canopies of the trees. That yes, the leaves were singed, but they were perfectly fine when they came back. There were quite a few natives around that were crown sprouting, and so they came back, some sumac and some toyon and whatnot. And then this is a wildfire meadow that's just holding, you know, green space until they recuperate financially. And then they actually kept this water. It didn't require much water. They kept it watered year round, but you could also just cast seed, enjoy the beauty of it, and then weed whack it when it comes time for its drop.
That's great. And just so you're all aware out there, I'm going to be putting minute markers on all of these so that way you can tie the photos to what Marge is talking about in the live feed after this event, so that way you can go back and you can say, okay, that's what she was talking about.
Girls got skills.
I love it.
Next.
Okay.
Forward.
This is near Lotus, right?
Yeah. So this is right across the street from Lotus Land, this next project, and the beautiful thing is it's 2 doors down from the fire station, and you'll see that the fire hazard map of this area, extreme fire hazard, except for our firehouse, the guy next to me, it's my own home, my house, Lotus Land, and Cold Spring School. So we're super happy. That's another thing I would recommend in landscaping is pick a place close to firehouse and fire hydrant. So, you know, location, once again, place in this. And so we'll go to the first image.
And it's coming up right now.
So, open space. Start with stuff that doesn't burn, man. These are sandblasted concrete pavers. They're inexpensive. They're super sustainable. You think about moving around if you want to. We've got gravel, mulch there. We've got, you'll see the canopies are lifted high so that we don't have a connection between the fuel on the ground and the fuel that's in the canopy of the trees. And that, again, will accomplish the goal of the fire boosting real quickly. Doesn't get our trees, just get that light, grassy stuff that's in there. Next image, please. You know, it's kind of cool. You have to happen to have a really great oak tree to pull this off, but very, very little plant material in there, yet it still feels wonderfully cool and lush. Super low water use, and super low maintenance as well. So as we get close to the house here, this bank is built. It just has all succulent plants on it, just a whole bunch of dotted. Next. You might also notice they kind of roots that don't burn. That's not a bad idea either. Here we are with a little bit of a pond. So there's some respite from all the gravel. And as long as you're recirculating water, you're not burning a lot of it. You know, you just have some evaporation, but it's such an attractant for wildlife that we make that. It's not about not using water, it's about not wasting it. It's about using it smartly. Then you'll also see that it's a great big stone table, not a wooden one, and no cushions on that stuff, because we did notice those cushions would pile up, blow up, and pile up against something. And I mean, that is where we see the worst, honestly, some of the worst damages. Cushions blowing around and piling up against your house. That is, count those 6 sycamore trees, and you'll see 6 posts, if you will, of pergola. This, if you built that out of timber and lumber, That wouldn't, that would be more fuel to the fire. This at least is green, and if you keep the fire on the ground, you'll have it again when the apple fire moves through. It also got set it in a setback because it is in a structure, so there you go. Next. Again, just, enough plants, well composed, inorganic mulch, doesn't burn. If you've got that kind of space in a composition, you can really use those plants as sculpture. You can use those pots as architecture. You can use those little lanterns there that, of course, burn fire, so don't do it in the wind. Gina didn't see this. You're allowed a little bit of luxury in there. Just do it smart. Next, please. You're allowed some flourishes. Yeah, that's a lot that'll burn, but it's not really got enough fuel to get it going very good. And we let a little bit of habitat for bugs and whatnot that feed our birds, etc. So we allow a little housing for people, even though it's a little bit fuel. Just don't have to connect it up. Next, please. Again, the front yard, super wet, super green. Native California, sorry, not native California plant, it's related to natives. It's a vernal pool plant, so if there's water, it sucks it up and loves it. If there's not water, it hangs out, but it's still green. And go ahead. This is the most simple of flooring. Whatever screening was on the property when we first moved there, and then some sculpture. Fix the garden. Play with the stuff. You're going to have a lot of stuff that isn't plant material in the garden. You're allowed to play with it. Make it interesting inside the detail that you pull into it. Next, please. The overview. Are we back to the beginning?
We are back to the beginning. Okay, so now we're going to upload our next set of photos.
So again, you guys, lots and lots of info out there. This is really more about pets. So yeah, I get don't have stuff that burns, but like how to make that pretty. So we're focusing on the aesthetic part here. And for me, aesthetics includes like the joy of using it. It includes having some habitat, water, and food for animals. Support the local biome, flora, fauna. This one is a project out overlooks Henry's Beach. And, we've had fires. I think Sycamore fire burned over there in the ocean, remember right? But I may not remember right. That was in 77, you know, way. There's been one in 50s that came all the way down from Getty. It came all the way down the coast, but believe me, it can get right down to the ocean.
Keep trying.
Yeah, better try, yeah, in the freeway. So this is, again, playing with the hardscape. There's really a lot of open space in there. So you're not going to have embers in bed and catch fire inside that gravel. If it catches in that grass, the grass is quite wet. It's watered year-round. It's watered subsurface year-round, and it's a super low water use grass. And that's a native verbena that's in it. So if we were to burn it for the past, there are actually landscape mounds under that to evoke dunes. So go ahead and play with the floor plane, not just the materials that are on it, but bring it into the three dimensions. Next, let's look in the other way. Sucks to be her. Next. Same idea next week. So we're just looking at different angles of it, but there's movement here. There's the light plays in here. It definitely you've got views. Wind comes through here like the Dickens. Next, please. Play with the hardscape. That is, when we use lumber, we like just high burn time lumber, and that's Ipe. And interestingly enough, it's hung out over on these ivings over the cliff, and it has a tray under it that's full of beach scents. We really would like to be at the beach, but we're kind of above it. So that is also going to be a barrier to. It's a steep cliff there. It's coastal chaparral there, coastal sage. Plant community there, and it'll come swooping up there, but hopefully we'll have a little bit of a break to it because of this depth of sand that we have in there. Next, please.
And I actually have a quick question for Gina in there. Marcia just mentioned high burn time lumber as Ipe. Are there any other materials that are good to use or not good to use?
Well, I can mention
Yeah,
one
yeah,
thing.
we don't get too much into the one.
Actually, the larger timbers,
Yeah.
heavy timbers, and I think it's like 6 inches
Or more. Dimension, yeah.
Yeah, a dimensional lumber.
Yeah.
Those things
Are allowed in Wildfire.
right? But you ideally would like to get away from that as much as
There also
possible.
are treatments, but they're pretty expensive, and they're high pressure. It takes something to get quite cool out the burn. So you're going for super high density, or you're going for broad volume.
That sounds great.
But we also say, in the code, it's the chapter 70 of the code.
Okay.
For the high fire construction requirements.
Great.
And some of the options are ignition resistant materials or fire retardant treated, and it's all state fire marshal regulated stuff. So we don't get into too much of it.
But that's a great resource for people to take a look at too. Perfect. Okay.
Again, playing with the floor materials, recycled granite cobble, playing with I-beam steel there, which actually was left over from a previous structure that had fallen down the cliff. So instead of hauling that all out, we thought that we could stabilize the cliff, so we just played with it and wove it into the fabric that was already there on the ground. Next, please. I'll be back in the joint later. We're back to the beginning.
Okay, we are, and then we've got another set of albums.
That's my time.
Your time looked good the last time I looked at it. So we're at 12:06, and so I think we're solid. We're moving a little bit faster than I initially planned, which is great because just in case you have comments at the end, or if you want to talk about something that I definitely want to make sure to do that. And this is Gibraltar.
This one's up in the Gibraltar area. You recognize this architecture. The Jeff Shopping House. And, there's a lot of joy in the landscape. Let's see, how do we put this? The house is a pretty large object in the landscape. Make it beautiful. Make it fun. Make it, make it serene. Make it support how it is that you live or aspire to live. It could be an ongoing project, as we all found out.
Here come our images.
So feel free to play with color, form. Those things don't burn. Landform, stone, fabulous boulders that we've got. Well, also, I really looked. Can I include some elements that don't burn? A bocce board doesn't burn, especially the frame in stone instead of wood. A pool doesn't burn. A pond doesn't burn. A horseshoe pitch doesn't burn if you've done it in gravel or sand. So here you are with quite a lot of inorganic material around the house. These boulders are from on site. And then pretty sparse planting, and then all of that being very high fire content, being within that 30-foot lean, clean, green zone that we talked about. The next one is oversized hardscaping, letting hardscape, let it be bigger than is actually strictly needed to get to the front door. These things is about 8 foot wide, each of those planks. And it's just, it's using up space with something that doesn't burn. There's also a fountain in there. Here we are with a lawn that doesn't require much water. It's about, they say 60% less water. I'd say 50% less water than your average lawn. So that's about a half an inch, 2 inches a month instead of 4 inches a month. And it can be left long. This is the Ross's palings. It's a native. And then what else we've got for plant material is we've got some succulents, we've got some grasses that would furniture with native grass. So that's also supporting native wildlife. Then we've got a nice open space, and then we've got a highly flammable teepee on a highly flammable. I didn't do that part, but the kids totally dig it, just so you know. But if that's going to catch on fire, let it be far away from the structure, and let the wind not be blowing towards the neighbor. Because that's kind of a nasty thing to do with the neighbor. Next, please. There you are, some succulent stone and those native grasses cut back. Next, please. That's just not much ornament for really pretty beautiful. very simple floor plan with stone and an ice plant, a single sculptural succulent, fabulous color with those wacky hands on it. In the pot, and then the drama of the succulent that's in the pot. There's not a lot in it that's going to burn. Again, play with the pots, play with the material, the plant material. You can get a lot in the composition for very, very little fuel. Details. Next, please. Okay. Pretty ornamental house, but it's set up. I inherited this place with a big fat planter right under a big fat fire trapping stairway, right? And I look at it and I go, well, concrete, what are we going to do? So that's, pick something strong and dramatic that will hold up against that house, like that pot. It provides a lot of sculpture. It doesn't fight with what's already going on there, and dull down the floor, and calm down the composition with this simple, unified, contrasting forms within the same unified palette. And you've seen some pebbles in there. You're seeing some in the foreground. That's the cobblestone that was the front door. You might be flopping around. You want to see the next one, please. Play with your inorganic mulches, the stone chips, crushed stone. I've done glass before. I've done marbles before. I've done broken crockery before. I've used broken roof tiles, broken brick, and you can paint with those as well as plants. Next, please. And, we might skip that last one so that we don't run out of time. So that's not a way to sum it up, but read the checklist and then challenge yourself. How do you solve this puzzle to make it beautiful, functional, and livable? Right, sustainable as well.
Perfect. Jerry, do you have anything to add to that section?
Just the point of defensible space, if somebody's not familiar with those terms, the biggest goal is to slow the progress of the fire. So the closer together planes are, the faster the fire is going to move through there, the less chance firefighters have to keep it away from the structure. And also to reduce the intensity of the fire. All that dead stuff in the trees and the bushes, it's like adding kindling to a fire. You see how a fire in the fireplace or camping, you put little sticks in there, and that really makes it burn well. So it makes your house more defendable for firefighters if we can slow it down and not have the high and take the in the distance from the structure to where you can start having more plants is a good safe buffer zone. Right? It gives firefighters space to work.
And what's the minimum buffer zone for this year? Just generally speaking, I know it gets further and further away as you get up the mountain, but
right. So our high fire hazard area is broken down into
great
coastal and the coastal interior, and the foothill, and then the extreme foothill. So it's anywhere from 30 feet from the structure to 150 feet from the structure. That's all on our high fire hazard defensible space requirements on the website as well.
That's fantastic. And then once again, we do have that opportunity to sign up for a voluntary defensible space evaluation. So that's something that we have locally that I'm really excited to actually be a part of. All right, we're going to move on to our next topic, which is one of the things that homeowners take it back. Upgrading your home to protect it from wildfire can get pricey. What should we put on our list from a building design perspective in order of importance? Crawl space ceilings, window replacement, roof reimagining, enclosing eaves, and Karen Beanie is going to talk to us about that.
Yeah, and I sent over some photos, but they're not as well ordered as Margie, so it might be easier to put them later. I could maybe mention projects in the and you could coordinate them afterwards.
That's great.
But I think, again, most of the comments that I'm talking about are how to reduce the weak links in your home, limiting the combustible areas. And I think one of the first things, and this is really for building a new home as opposed to refurbishing an existing one, but if you're building a home, particularly up on the hillside, you want to have the home step down the hill. The very example, I refer to that because that's the picture that I sent over, was a home where the tea fire burned all around that house. It was a fairly large home, but it was actually 3 different structures that stepped down the hill. So what happened is when the fire was coming up, it just jumped right into the house. And that was really beneficial in that case. There's a photo that I have that shows it burned all the way around, and the house was intact. The other thing that we've learned is there's a greater likelihood that your home's going to burn from a building to building fire for having a big oak next to it as opposed to the fire itself. It's the high amount of radiant heat that happens from something that's burning. And so you might correct me on this, but I think that for a home and adjacent structures, you should have a distance of about 50 feet between home and an adjacent structure in order to reduce that radiant heat. So the next part to look at is really, this is
really important given all the heat.
But is looking at your roof assembly. As I mentioned before, high winds can blow embers great distances ahead of fire. And so what you want to look at, first of all, is having non-combustible materials for your roof. Whether that's a stainless steel metal roof, a Class A shingle, or mission tile roof. But if you have a mission tile roof, usually mission tile has openings at the end along the eaves, and you want to put bird blocking in there to close up those holes so that you don't have embers getting in under the red tiles and burning your roof down. So let's see. Then, vents. You want to try that, especially in the high fire area. You want to avoid vents as much as possible. So in your attic and in your crawl space, if you're building a new home, you can use some of the foam insulation materials that don't require you to have attic venting. But there are, if you want to replace vents in your existing home, there are some great vent products that have actually been developed by people who were formerly firefighters. One is a baffle vent where if an ember got in, it would have to move through all these baffles before it got into your crawl space or your roof. And the wind will go through it just fine for a breeze. The holes are small enough, but an ember won't get through. The other thing is something that's an intumescent paint. I said that right. The vent is actually coated with this paint that when it gets hot. And the only downfall for this is that you have to have the heat fairly close to your house for that to melt, but it actually melts and then it closes up the holes in the grid of your vent. So those are fire prevention vents that you can have. And then the best place again is no vents at all. So then also with your crawl space, the same thing applies. I think the other thing you can do with your crawl space is you can actually create make it a conditioned space. You can put down, they have a 15 milliliter plastic product that you can put down on the bottom of your crawl space right over the dirt, and then you can seal it up around the edges and make it part of the conditioned space so that you don't need to have vents into your crawl space. And then the next part, that also improves the side. It also improves your indoor air quality because you're not having nasty moisture stuff in places where rats and other things live coming up into the rest of the home. If you seal it well. So then the next area is windows, and you want to use dual glazed windows at a minimum and at least one layer of tempered glass, and that's actually now code. You have to have the tempered glass, but that reduces breakage again from wind-blown items because those winds can whip up branches and rocks and break windows. And we've had homes that were fine until a window broke and stuff got inside and caused the home to burn. Again, with windows, you want to look at some of the non-wood products. Metal flat windows are fabulous and more fire resistant than others. And the other thing you can do is you can also, in an existing home, you can add shutters, fire shutters to your windows so that you can close. And in some cases, there are some automated ones, a bit more expensive. I was just up at Barton Myers' home in Toro Canyon. This is going to be a plug for the AIA tour that's on October 7th. But what he did is he built his home at the top of Toro Canyon. He made it as fire safe as possible. It's made out of metal. He also has these shutters. Now you've got to be there to let them down, but they're on a chain and the shutters come down over the front of his house, which is entirely glass and metal. But if you're home and you want to stay in place, you can put those shutters down and stay within your home. You don't want to advocate that too much. But in this case, he's way up in the canyon. If you're trapped, he's gonna survive.
That's going to be on the AIA tour, which we will have a link to in our comments field as well.
Great. And then again, your doors, you want to weather strip the doors so you don't get those embers underneath it in your house. Decks. Yes, ma'am.
Should I say some comment on windows?
Sure.
Yeah, I think windows is one of the weakest links in the structure. And I just want to make sure that we discourage greatly replacing any windows with the vinyl framed window, which has become really popular. Actually, the vinyl from Mesa. They're quick and easy. They're great in the right application. They're not good in the right application.
It's full of toxins too.
It could be a rated window to comply with the code. But the frame, I mean, and not so fast.
That's a great point. That's a really good point. So then the next part is your deck, and you want to use non-combustible materials. Margie showed a lot of materials in the garden, but you can also make stone decks and walkways, and you can have and then there is treated wood that you can use to make decks as well. But then you want to think about your deck railings too. You don't want to have wood railings. You can use plaster, you can use stone, you can use tile, you can use iron, wrought iron railings, and then again enclosing the skirt around your deck. If you've got an elevated deck and there's a lot of space under there, particularly if there's wood underneath, you want to skirt that so that you don't get embers underneath. Walls, fences, arbors, and trellises. Again, use non-flammable masonry, wrought iron, chain link. You can do all kinds of things. Again, Margie showed some things. Yeah, I think that's really it. I mean, there are some. I know that after the Teen case fire, there were a lot of companies that were coming around with these foam systems. Do they still have those? Where you can actually have your home. Somebody can come in and spray your home in the middle of a fire, or you can have a foam system that's on your home and it'll coat your home in a fire situation. But I haven't seen those work well. They're expensive.
I have some experience with them.
You do?
Yeah. Don't want to bum out anybody's business deal, but so you have to test these things regularly.
Yeah.
So I just have a client who put this in, and it was after the fact. And, there's PVC piping up every tree, and then they keep testing the foam, and I keep getting calls coming to replace these plants. Even though if you washed this foam off really well, it's so easy that you probably wouldn't suffocate plants, but it doesn't get washed. So anyway, it's got its upsides and its downsides, so do your research.
Well, one other thing I want to mention is going back to something that Margie said earlier, is getting to know your firefighters. You know, my boss, Dennis Allen, his home was in the Hayseed fire. I remember coming into the office and I'd seen this plume of smoke, and I'm going, hey, Dennis, what's the fire at Mission Canyon? He said, I don't know what you're talking about. It was the Hayseed fire. He's not in there, but because Dennis, first of all, had made defensible space. His home was made with really large wood timbers. He also knew all the firefighters that when the fire came through, the firefighters didn't have to do much to protect his home, and they did everything actually to protect it. There were other homes around him that burned, and those relationships are huge.
Yeah, I've done that twice.
Right.
Fire's not always bad, people. It is renewal, sort of restorative thing as well.
But just to take up a little tiny bit more time here, I know that some of the photos that I sent over to you, there's the Chamness project that's all stucco exterior, and it has a beautiful garden in it. And then the Shipper home, again, is a Tuscan style, but it has the red tile stucco and then there was one other I sent over, LeComte, which actually, I don't know if you were able to pull that one up, but that home on Mountain Drive was rebuilt to withstand, it's a fortress to withstand the fire, but it has every stone exterior, plaster exterior, a metal, stainless steel metal roof, all the railings on the rooftop deck are metal, and then it has actually water all around it in the form of a pool and a little meandering stream that goes around the house, so there's some Russian opportunity.
And I will add the links on buildallen.com over to this project so that way you can see some of the other features of this as well. So, great. Do we have anything else that we want to add to either of those sections before we move on to insurance?
Maybe just fast-moving wildfire driven by crazy heavy winds might be a complete wall of flames, and maybe there's nothing that can be done about that. That's the nature. But if you think about embers, just be around your property and think, where can an ember be? Because that is what's most likely going to get fire. Right. Yeah. Every little nook and cranny. It takes one ember in the wrong nook and cranny, and your house can be the only one going down on that block.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And I know that some of the homes that we rebuilt after the fire, where the fire had gone through, but something had gotten into the attic and sat there and burned in hours after hours.
Days.
And then, one other thing that we need to think about is, again, the Berry home example on Mountain Drive. This home was built with really thick walls and actually cellulose insulation. It had high fire-resistant windows. It was a mini fortress, but what the owner did that was really interesting is that he had temperature sensors inside of his home during the fire, and it burned all around, which can get up to a couple thousand degrees or how much. But his home never went over about 90 degrees inside. Because sometimes what can also happen is if the house gets really, really super heated inside, it can also windows too. So he had everything, his home designed in such a way that it maintained cool environment on the interior, and I'm sure the kids survived. So,
I'd like to throw in a little on existing housing stock.
yeah.
You know, really, we're not building that many new houses unless we have a big fire come through where we lose a bunch of structures, and then we build right again in a high fire area, and off we go again. So the reality is, let's see. So where I lived before, my current house, this was during all three fires that whatever. So let me just say that my house was a 1948 house, stucco asphalt shingle roof. Neighbor's house in 1948, stucco shingle roof. He happens to be a firefighter for the city of LA. The county of LA. And so for two fires, we were evacuated 3 times.
Oh, wow.
And so, well, number one, by the third time, we sort of thinking, is it too late to sell? And you're thinking, do I really want this stuff? I'm tired of dusting or whatnot. Don't want to feed it anymore. But my neighbor said, I'm going to call you when it's time to go. Don't do this, you guys. Don't do this. But we evacuate early because we have our business at home. We figure we probably should be able to help people rebuild, and we probably should be able to make money after the fire because we'll have to do some sort of reconstruction. So what he had to do before we left was he had to do my house and then his house because he was fighting the fire. He had us go through this horribly leaky house with windows don't sit right and any of that stuff, and we really did seal up all the way out. And it was like duct tape and tinfoil, man. Everything that we could find, duct tape and tinfoil, duct tape and tinfoil. And then he had me wet down my place. The lots are 50 feet by 150 feet. You don't look, what your neighbor's doing for fire suppression is really, really important for you. What your other neighbor's doing. So he had to go all around the neighborhood, a couple of houses that way, turn on people's hoses, water the place down, so again, for ember suppression. Should embers land, they wouldn't find a place to live bad and catch light. And then, let's see, he said, oh, don't take that cat with you, just let her go, because traveling with the cat was horrible in a box. Pissed off cat in a box. Not even that cat. And then we evacuated 2 friends' house, got evacuated as well. So common sense, travel light, and you can this is not a plan to at the last minute go doing this. We just happen to have a lot of warning. But if you live in a house that's already built, you don't get to say what the roof is. You don't get to, unless you really, bucks up. So the common sense will take it a long way, as Gina points to. Use, well, if I were an ember, where would I bed? In bed. Get rid of some stuff. You do less stuff in your house, less stuff to burn. All that stuff in the garage. You've got gasoline in there. Yeah, it's just right smack up to your house. The combustibles. I mean, we see firewood stacked against the house all the time. But these guys are firefighters that get up there, if they can, they will do everything that they can safely to protect your house. So they're asking you for this much help, and they'll do the rest. So do it beforehand, plan about this thing.
That sounds great. So we have our last question on our discussion, and that is one of the things that homeowners most often get wrong are replacement costs from an insurance perspective. I know because I have in-laws who went through that in their fire loss rebuild. So how often should a homeowner be looking at replacement costs for insurance? I know you guys both know it from landscaping to building design, how much those materials costs increase and change over time. What are the most important items to make sure that we get cataloged from a local landscape from a home perspective?
Right. I can take this one first. I spoke with Ian Crutchoff in construction. He was the man who was on the ground for the after the HCC fire, the Katie Clue fire before that. Lots of people on their insurance. And as far as reviewing and updating their insurance, Ian suggested that you talk with a general contractor about every 2 or 3 years to get current replacement building costs for the specific style and finishes of your home. A contemporary modern home, a large Tuscan home, an old home that was built in the 1940s. Everybody's different, so you need to really get what the costs are for your home. Now, when it comes to your insurance policy, there are different elements of it. And coverage A covers the damage or the cost to rebuild the main house only. What you should do in order to make sure that you rebuild like for like is to have photographs of what your home looked like. If you have really nice crown molding and you have beautiful counters and floors, you want to make sure you get photos of that so that when the insurance adjuster comes in and tries to keep you from getting as much money as you need to rebuild your home, you can say, this is what it was. And then you've got a general contractor who says, yeah, that's what it costs to build that. So then coverage B covers damage to other detached buildings and structures, such as a detached garage, work sheds, trellises, walkways, driveways, fencing. And so you want to make sure that you've got adequate coverage in coverage B for those kinds of things. Then the other thing is you want to make sure that you have coverage for code upgrades. That if you had a home that was built in the 1920s or the 1940s, and now the code says you've got to meet Title 24, the energy codes, you've got to have energy efficient windows and certain insulation. Your home is not built like that, so you want to make sure that you have coverage in your insurance that allows you to build and have enough money to build up a new code. But new energy efficient windows are not inexpensive. And then the other thing is personal property. There's another section of your insurance that covers personal property. And that covers the contents of your home and personal belongings used, owned, or worn by the family. And so the way you can account for this is going through and actually taking photographs of everything that's in your home. Open your closet. If you've got jewelry, lay it out on a counter and take photos of it. The other thing I just want to mention is our experience from working with folks after the fire is when you file a claim, the insurance company is going to send out an adjuster to help you assess the damage. And typically those adjusters come, especially after a fire when numerous homes have been lost, they're not from Santa Barbara. They may be from Los Angeles, but it's a good chance that they might even be from out of state, and they have no idea what the building costs are here in Santa Barbara. And so that's one thing that we want to do is, well, the other thing is that they're going to try and keep their pain out to you as low as possible. So as a builder, what we did is we went to bat for a number of different people, sat in, we went to court hearings in Los Angeles, and we had photos, and we had costs, and we had all kinds of things, so we're able to help the homeowner gets as much money back as possible in insurance to build.
So partner early with the general contractor.
Yeah. And also, again, make sure that what you have reflects what your home is. It's not just standard cost.
Margie, what you got?
So this is from working with homeowners after both FEMA and assisted fire. Okay, not all insurance is created equally, without question. Not all insurance companies are created equally. Really look for that guy who talked to people. There's enough people who had experience with insurance companies. There were definitely companies that were better than other companies. And I won't name them because I'm really not the guy who knows that stuff. As far as what was covered in landscaping, so I would just, I'm not reading insurance policies as a homeowner or as a renter. I'm like getting a relationship with an insurance agent that I trust and having them shop me, having them understand who I am, again, getting relationship, getting partnerships early. So in the landscape, what was covered was surprisingly little. on virtually everyone.
So isn't there a whole other section? I said there's a whole other section to go to.
Yeah, that's down at Z or lower. Virtually, so 4 people that we worked with over those 2 fires, virtually to a person, what was covered were things that you could claim was like a structure. So it was like the irrigation cloth, but not the irrigation heads. I mean, everything's melted, right? Everything was irrigation made of plastic. And it was really, there was a lot of dancing between the insurance company and the homeowner. And I declined to get in the middle of it because I was just like, really? I didn't trust myself. Okay. So I don't always behave in those meetings, so I wasn't invited to them. But it really, the amount of parsing that happened and the amount of back and forth that happened. So I looked for a clause, QRZ or whatever it is, and see if it's in there. The other thing to do is maybe just, when we built back, we pretty much looked for plans that we could, let's see, okay, lighting systems went pretty well. That went pretty well. You could physically say, see, the lamp is burned. The fixture's burned. You could say, see, the transformer's burned. And they would do that. If it was attached to the house, that was okay sometimes, and other times, well, you shouldn't attach to the house, so we're not covering that. There was a lot that went on with it, but it really was true that they were these 4 different insurance companies that turned out kind of all had the same strategy, which is like, I don't think we should pay for that. And the homeowner strategy was like, so how am I going to replace it? And they said, gee, good luck with that. So what we did when we built back was we did things like, what if we get we use the kind of plants that we could get started with water, and then just after that turn the water off. So the irrigation system wouldn't be that important. I mean, it required having to be able to, from time to time, the homeowner, without a system, sort of bumping the fuel moisture up every once in a while on their plants, So maybe once a month or 4 months a year, they wash down plants and to keep them healthy and to keep the fuel moisture up. You build a stone, it doesn't burn. It's kind of my strategy. It's like path of least resistance. I'm gonna try to avoid the insurance guy as much as possible because my son would do it. So that's my strategy.
Gina, do you have anything else that you'd like to add for any homeowners or renters out there that you recommend? Good. That's great. And
the only other thing I just want to say is actually a little bit of a plug for my company, because after the fire, we were out there helping homeowners, right? Like we actually provided insurance estimates for about 45 or 50 families who had lost their home. And thankfully, we ended up building about 25 of those, or about half of those. But I think that the other thing after fire is working with a local contractor to rebuild that, because there were a number of contractors that came from out of the area that came in and they had all these bells and whistles about what you do. There was one woman in particular that ended up going to jail because she was a shyster. And but also the other thing about having a local contractor rebuild or help you with the home is that after the home is built, they're here to help you for the long term. They're not out of town, gone, and you can't find anybody to be responsible if something's not exactly right now. So I think that's another important thing about fires. And I guess the last thing I was going to say, it's really ironic that we've been talking about this when there's rain and floods in the south. I mean, it's just, that's a whole other world.
Yep. And it's interesting that we're doing this. One of the hottest days of the year.
That's right.
So, well, we ended up with perfect timing. I can't believe that hour went by so quickly. Thank you to all of our panelists for your contributions. If you want to get in touch with any of them, you can find links to their Facebook profiles and websites in the discussion thread on our virtual event page. Thanks again to Sandbox who hosted us today. And if you're looking for a good co-working space, we encourage you to stop by and visit or reach out to the team via thesandboxsb.com. And again, their links and to their website and Facebook profile are in the discussion thread below. And then just a little plug for the SBCA. If you enjoyed today's broadcast, be sure to stay on the lookout on Facebook for upcoming educational events for our community from the SBCA. Last month, we enjoyed an AU discussion that you can view on our Facebook feed. And we have a pretty exciting educational calendar coming up over the course of the next year, filled with insights from local experts, just like you heard today. SBCA is an active professional organization and association for local licensed contractors. The SBCA serves nearly 400 members and is recognized as one of the leading organizations representing the overall construction industry on the California Central Coast. The SBCA was founded in 1948 by a group of local contractors, and we're here to promote the integrity and high standards and quality in the construction industry. So if you are in need of a local licensed contractor, we encourage you to visit our website at sbcontractors.org for our directory and a variety of tips for hiring a building professional. So thanks so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you being here. And hope you had as much fun as we did.
Thanks, Jen.
Thanks
so much.
I'm just going to shut this down.
It's so cold. Yeah.